You are listening to Practical and Woo by Mindset and Manifest. My name is Eden, and I invite you to embark on a journey with me to explore the practical and spiritual edges of the unknown for the purpose of allowing you to embody and empower yourself uniquely as you are and to intentionally create and live a life of freedom and fulfillment. Each week, I am going to discuss topics such as energetics, reality creation, manifestation, astrology, tarot, and more to help empower you to live beyond perceived limitations and to practically design your life so it feels like absolute magic every step of the way. Let's dive in. Well, hello, brilliant soul. Last week, I went to see Christopher Nolan's depiction of Homer's Odyssey in theaters and felt completely blown away by it. It was almost like I was the hero on a journey for 20 years. The impact of this movie and a depiction of such a prolific story was palpable. It also got me thinking about journeys in the context of manifestation and reality creation. In the energetic and spiritual corner of the world, we so often reach toward the reality creation techniques that promise to make a revolutionary, instantaneous quantum leap into parallel realities. I know I've sought this kind of thing out before, especially when I was feeling my most down on my luck and stumped in my life. But lately, I've been finding myself falling more and more in love with what I'm going to call the bridge, that liminal space on our journey of creation that feels like you're crossing the threshold into the next part. Instead of forcing something to appear, you actually take the journey to get there. And instead of trying out manifestation techniques that promise to quote unquote recreate how someone is showing up, you actually build something meaningful with them, meet them, and watch as your sense of self and reflection of reality morphs and changes alongside you rather than in a blink of an eye. For a long time, the bridge was the part of the journey I most wanted to avoid because I felt intolerant of the discomfort that came with the changes required of me and my reality. If you've spent any time in the manifestation world, you've probably encountered the idea that there are infinite versions of reality existing simultaneously, that there's a version of you who already has the relationship, the business, the health, the confidence, the abundance, and the peace. There are teachings that invite us to assume the identity of that future self immediately, to embody them now, to decide that the reality has already changed, to stop reinforcing the old story. Now, to be clear, I actually believe that there is tremendous wisdom hidden inside most, if not all, of these teachings. And I've also taught a lot of these teachings. Many of them have helped me to level up in my own reality creation field. Topics like identity, expectancy, and the stories we allow ourselves to rehearse absolutely influence the nature and experience of the life that we have. But there's also something really profound about the bridge as a concept as well, especially for those of us who want to race to the finish line of the life we're wanting to have. And I want to acknowledge that so many of us sensitive, perfectionistic beings, to us, the bridge can feel like absolute evidence that we've done something wrong, that we somehow committed an unholy crime. In this desire we have to keep everything together, we've somehow inherited the belief that if we were successfully creating our reality, then difficult conversations and patterns would not continue to happen. We wouldn't feel shame or embarrassed or insecure. We'd just be the highest version of ourselves with a single snap of our fingers. But didn't we come here to actually play the game, not cheat ourselves out of the experience of leveling up? In thinking about it, what made Odysseus's journey most meaningful was his embodiment of it. And even when he denied himself the ability to go home for a while, he still ultimately faced it all, felt it all. He strived, learned, mourned, grew, took ownership, held his dignity. And that's what made his life most meaningful. So, why would we ultimately start on the journey only to turn back? If we were choosing to play a video game, for example, why would we immediately eject the disc every time the monsters popped up? And I understand how tempting it is to trial a technique that promises to bypass the pain, discomfort, growing edges of an experience, to simply step into another timeline where everything is already solved. I mean, who wouldn't want that, at least sometimes? But lately, I've been wondering if the bridge between our life's chapters is actually the entire point of existing. Taking this back to our video game example, I want to invite you to imagine that you've heard the most incredible things about a new video game that's come onto the market. You've heard that it's ripe with story and the world is immaculately created. The characters each have evolved storylines, and every level equips you with the ultimate tools and also deeply meaningful lessons. You finally get a copy of this game. It's now in your possession. You cannot wait to start playing. And so you excitedly load it into your game player. The opening level flashes on, and within minutes, you encounter your first difficult moment. In wanting to play this game and to experience it for all that it has to offer, would you want someone to remove the difficult encounter and skip straight to the ending where you've already won? Would you have won beyond the title of winning without the knowledge, skills, life lessons acquired by encountering the levels in succession? I think somewhere along the way, we've confused destination and transformation. We sometimes make the assumption that arriving at our goals automatically changes us, whether it brings more happiness, fulfillment, joy, love, belonging. But the things we want most can only reveal themselves when they are built from the inside out. That's when they become more than just mirages of the mind. To arrive somewhere is an external reflection of an internal becoming that happened over time, sometimes invisibly through hundreds of different moments. The business isn't what creates the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur creates the business. The marriage doesn't create the partners. The partners are what creates the marriage. Confidence doesn't magically appear when circumstances have changed. There's a profound difference between possessing something and becoming someone. And manifestation culture often emphasizes the former, but life itself, especially the most meaningful kind, seems more deeply committed to the latter. So, what if you allowed your journey to be something that reshaped you and actually brought you home? It's not something to skip over, it's something to courageously endure. So, what is this bridge then that I've referenced? To me, a bridge is such a fascinating structure because it exists in relationship to two realities simultaneously. With a bridge, one side remains rooted in where you've come from, while the other reaches towards where you're going. And yet, somehow, the bridge itself is still a place unto its own being. It's something that's strong and anchored if you allow it to be. In reality creation, the bridge is the space where you're no longer the person you were and also not quite the person you're becoming. You're carrying new beliefs while emotional patterns occasionally still reappear. You have a greater sense of wisdom while still also making familiar mistakes. You understand more deeply while still feeling profoundly human. All of this can feel incredibly inconsistent. It can feel messy, even contradictory. But how good does it feel when you make your way and find yourself on the other side of the bridge because you met the life lessons, skills, tools, and even divine intervention to get you there? Here's the thing I keep coming back to. If consciousness is truly the point of all of this, if we are really souls having a human experience, then perhaps the goal was never to simply collect experiences. Perhaps it was to become someone capable of relating to them differently. Think about the qualities we admire most in someone else. We admire wisdom, but wisdom isn't something you can download. Well, unless you're a sage monk with eons of access to the collective consciousness. But for most of us regular human folk, wisdom is something bestowed on us from lived experience that has been metabolized into our own understanding. We admire compassion, but something like compassion is often born from knowing what it feels like to be hurt. Similar to steadiness, a state of being that is forged in seasons that tried to shake us most. All of these qualities are built because of the bridge, not in spite of it. This contemplation has caused me to wonder whether manifestation has occasionally become a little too focused on changing the scenes of our lives when the more important consideration is who you're becoming within them. When I allow myself to look back over my own life, I can recognize that almost every chapter that transformed me, looked messy, even shameful at times, was somehow a chapter that was sacred anyway, because it quietly rewired who I believed myself to be, and it subtly revealed who I actually was the whole time. The most difficult seasons become part of the craftsmanship. Almost like Odysseus's, his story would not still be spoken about thousands of years later if he simply got home in the narrative. It's because of who he was when he arrived home and how he chose to meet his bridge along the way. The man who stepped onto the shores of Ithaca at the end of the Odyssey was not the same man who left 20 years earlier. Had he somehow skipped over the Cyclops, the Sirens, Circe, Calypso, the storms, the grief, impossible decisions made, he perhaps would have arrived sooner, yes, but he wouldn't have become Odysseus. His identity wasn't waiting for him back in Ithaca, it was forged somewhere between Troy and home. And maybe ours is too. Maybe the life of our dreams and destiny isn't simply a destination. Maybe it's what gradually appears as we become increasingly more ourselves along the way. The bridge doesn't merely connect two versions of our life, it's something that seems to reconnect us to ourselves between each chapter. Where circumstances can change, where money can come and go, it's the bridge that gives us our own character, discernment, integrity, and our own inner home. And from this place, this is where you can be sure that you've built something that no external reality could ever fully provide. Strangely enough, I think this is the exact place when manifestation becomes most effortless. Because in this way of co creating with your world, you allow yourself to stop outrunning your own becoming and you start trusting that every honest conversation, every growing edge, every act of courage, every uncomfortable lesson is another plank being laid beneath your feet. You aren't waiting for the bridge, you're actively walking across it. And one day you'll look behind you and realize something truly extraordinary. That the bridge wasn't keeping you from your dream, it was slowly turning you into the person who could finally receive it, recognize it, and sustain it with open hands and a grateful heart. Maybe that's been the magic sauce all along. Until next time.